Ready? 5 seconds. Start. After the initial invasion of Kuwait by Iraq, the UN placed an embargo on the nation in an attempt to prevent an armed conflict. A naval and air blockade was added. The purpose of the initial sanctions was to coerce Iraq into following international law, which included the recognized sovereignty of Kuwait. But even after the liberation of Kuwait, a series of sanctions were created to weaken the country. A UN plan to purchase food and medicines by sale selling Iraqi oil to the world became one of the most serious scandals to hit the UN and its Secretary General. US sanctions against Iran over the years broke the back of the country and forced it to reach an agreement to limit its nuclear activities. The US withdrawal from the Iran deal has now resulted in Iran facing clipping sanctions. Perhaps the impact on COVID 19 was severe in Iran on account of the sanctions and the resultant economic crisis in the country. There are many more cases of sanctions against many countries still in existence. Temporary sanctions in protest against the policies of countries often result in expulsion or withdrawal of diplomatic personnel. The politics of sanctions entered a new era when US President Donald Trump signed into law the Countering America's Adversaries through Sanctions Act that grouped together sanctions against Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Currently, the US alone or together with other countries has sanctions against Belarus, Myanmar, Cote d'Ivoire, Cuba, and Democratic Republic of Congo, Iran, Iraq, Libya, North Korea, Sudan, Syria, and Zimbabwe, and several other countries. The wide network of sanctions is comprehensively monitored by the Office of Foreign Asset Control of the US Department of the Treasury, which enforces economic and trade sanctions based on US foreign policy and national security goals against targeted foreign countries and regimes and related entities and individuals. There is no estimate of the losses sustained by these countries on account of these sanctions, but these countries will be much relieved if these restrictions are removed. The present global pandemic and the requirement of massive resources may be an occasion to lift these sanctions. The countries which have imposed these sanctions will not have to make any financial outlay to assist these countries at this time of a humanitarian emergency. The G20 chairman, the King of Saudi Arabia, on a suggestion by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, had convened a video conference of G20 leaders. As a follow up of that meeting, the G20 could consider proposing the lifting of multilateral and bilateral sanctions. As Winston Churchill said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Stop.